WNST, Towson, Baltimore. Wounds from the missed extra point of Justin Tucker on Sunday. There was other action around the league. Luke Jones joins us now, of course, to recap not just sort of a wild week and a strange game. We're getting ready for Carolina. We got the World Series happening this week as well. But, Luke, interestingly enough, when the Tucker miss happened, the first thing I thought about was earlier in the morning and the flashback to Mike Vrabel having to put his football team on a plane in London and come back after missing a two-point conversion to end the game. Look, there's no thought that you're going to put the offense out there at home with Justin Tucker. Maybe the wind would be a factor, and certainly for those who saw that extra point, it wasn't a tremendously poor hit by Justin Tucker or block or anything like that. The wind was swirling a little bit. But on the other side, when you go for two and you don't make it and you have to fly back from London with your tail between your legs, that's a whole different sort of thing that I think they wanted to charge head coaches with a decade and a half ago, where let's make it harder, on two-point conversions. Let's make it harder 3 years ago when we moved the extra point back now. But I don't know that there's any decision for John Harbaugh to make specifically here, but there was one in London.
Well, see, I disagree. Now, I'm going to be very clear. I would have kicked the extra point, but I think there are absolutely some legitimate debate there, and it has nothing to do with Justin Tucker. Let's be very clear about that. Even though the last time I saw the statistic, and I don't know how much it's changed, but I think since they moved the extra point back a couple years ago, it's right around a 94% success rate. So you have that, but I think you also have to look at the fact that the Saints possessed the ball for over 10 minutes in the fourth quarter and scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. So you look at the 94% success rate for the extra point in general. Even if you say Justin Tucker, you assume he's 100%. You're not winning the game there. You're tying it. So then you're taking it to overtime, and you have a 50% chance of winning the coin toss, and you then know that you haven't been able to stop Drew Brees in the offense, in the Saints offense. So I think there was a decision there. I don't think John Harbaugh made the wrong decision, but I think there's more to it than just saying, well, you're going to let Justin Tucker kick it and send it into overtime, because going into overtime, was that your best chance to win, or was your best chance to win trying the two-point conversion? Now, we can even debate that and say, well, you don't run the ball particularly effectively unless Lamar Jackson is in the game, and then maybe there's the debate of, dare you put Lamar Jackson on the field under center or in shotgun on a two-point try, and Joe Flacco is either just standing out there or he's not in the game at all. I don't know. I mean, it would be, I'll say this, it would have been really ballsy. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Well, and it was really ballsy in London, right? It's really ballsy anytime you do it, and it's even more ballsier when you win a game like that, but way worse when you lose one, right?
Is it, though? I mean, and this kind of goes back to what we've seen this so much with baseball and how bullpens are managed. And I mean, we saw this in Game 7 with Josh Hader brought in as early as he was against the Dodgers, and he did his job, but some other guys didn't. And you can kind of, there's such a sense of so many coaches in every sport are just so obsessed with losing in conventional ways. And they don't consciously say that, but so many people are so prefer losing in a conventional way rather than trying to win in a way that might be the best way to win, but it doesn't work out. This is the Zach Britton, saving him because he's your closer, and that's the conventional way of doing things, compared to you're trying to win the game and all of that. So I think even though I don't like that Tennessee offense, and maybe from that standpoint, Mike Vrabel shouldn't have gone for two in London. So because you always have to weigh all the variables, but sometimes going for two and going for the win is the right play. And at the end of the day, you're trying to win the game, right? You're not trying to. The objective isn't to not lose the game. It's to try to win it, and sometimes the bold decision, sometimes the unconventional decision is the right one. Now, it doesn't always work out, and in the same way you can say, well, You kick the extra point and you send it in the overtime, and then you lose in overtime. Well, no one ever asks the coach, no one ever goes back and criticizes the coach for kicking the extra point then. And if Justin Tucker makes the extra point and the Ravens lose in overtime, is anyone even bringing that up? Probably not. So, I think it really does go to we're so stuck in our ways, and I mean everyone, not just coaches, but so many of us, maybe not all of us, but close to all of us are so stuck in our ways and conventions. And
there's nobody in the world who doesn't kick the field goal for the Ravens. I don't know what Vrabel was thinking. When you see it, you're like, that's a ballsy call, but I don't think there's anything statistically based to get to your analytics, love, and we'll get to the Red Sox and the Dodgers as well before this is all over with, and some baseball stuff and some Victor Mesa, but I don't think analytically there's anything in the world that would stop you from sending Justin Tucker out there other than, oh my God, the wind is swirling, but that would never stop you before, right?
Well, I'll go back to it. The defense had been on the field for over 10 minutes in the fourth quarter, and they hadn't stopped the Saints. So, really, you weigh it like this, and you mentioned the win. That's certainly a variable. Even if you say Justin Tucker 100%, even though clearly it wasn't, and the Ravens were reminded of that even he is human as much as he's done.
What is that like, dude, when a free throw shooter comes to the line and you're like, well, he's 100%, he's 22 for 222. Like a free throw shooter, if he's 94%, you consider it automatic, and he misses one every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
But to be literally 100%,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's outrageous.
But again, you go back to it and say, all right, you weigh this and say, what are my chances of getting the 2-point conversion here and winning the game, assuming you make a stop in the final 20 seconds, which, it's Drew Brees, so maybe you're still a little leery of that. But what are the chances of getting the 2-point conversion compared to what are my odds of winning in overtime? And that's really what the decision is. And that's where more head coaches need to be bold, but they're also the ones that are answering the questions. It's bad enough answering questions from the media. They're the ones that have to answer the question from their owner who might not really understand how that decision-making process even works and is just going to look at it based on the result. And we all know that in sports, you can make the perfect decision and it doesn't work out. You can call the perfect play and the guy drops it in the end zone. Well, you failed, right?
By the way, who is the greatest free throw shooter of all time? Do you know? I had to look this one up. And percentage.
Well-known name?
Yeah, Steve Nash, 90.4%.
I was going to guess Mark Price.
Mark Price is number 2 at 90.3%. Okay. Steph Curry at 90.33%. And Peja Stojakovic at 89%. But 90% is the greatest there's ever been, over a lifetime of free throw. This guy was 100% on field goals. Right. It's incredible, right?
Oh, no doubt. So, long story short, I don't disagree with what John Harbaugh did, but I think there absolutely was a compelling argument to be made for going for 2 there, but he decided not to, and again, I'm not criticizing. I just think it leads to an interesting discussion, because you look at game situation, you look at where your defense is from a fatigue standpoint, from a performance standpoint, you look at the wind, and if you feel you have a great play, if you have your version of the Philly special that you have been waiting for this exact moment for it, why not? Take a shot. Try to win the game, because you kick an extra point and send it to overtime. That's not winning the game. That's not losing the game. So, there's always that debate, and so many coaches will err on the side of they'd rather lose conventionally rather than take a chance and maybe look like some people are going to call you a fool, but even if the win probability says to do it, a lot of people are going to criticize that. So I think it was an interesting question to ask. John Harbaugh was asked that question, and he said, "You always consider it." I don't think he considered it strongly, and that's fine. But I do think there were a couple variables there that you could point to and say, "Hey, let's win it right now. Let's not try to depend on the coin toss and trying to stop Drew Brees. We have our chance to win this game right here and now, and who knows? I mean, Maybe if he had done it and they won, he's a genius. And if not,
well, if you run Lamar Jackson out there and some chicanery, and he's in the end zone, and we're doing the dance, and here we go in first place, and watch the Bengals get their asses kicked, we'd be feeling pretty good about ourselves right now, wouldn't we?
But the funny thing is if you go for two and you miss it, what is everyone saying?
What they're saying about Mike Vrabel right now.
How do you not let the greatest kicker, maybe in NFL history before it's all said and done, the most accurate in NFL history, how do you not let him tie the game and go into overtime? So it's just a reminder that nothing is truly automatic, and it's a testament to how great Justin Tucker has been and a testament to how great I think he will continue to be, even with a really disappointing blip on the radar on Sunday.
Luke Jones is our insider. He will be in Owings Mills all week long. We'll be up late with the World Series as well. We'll be chatting about that, all of our WNST coverage, and all the World Series games on at Patrick's in Essex. My old stomping grounds right on Eastern Avenue in Essex. Cold beer, the great bands on the weekends. Never cover the food, the music, the classic rock, and many, many TVs throughout the sports bar down there to watch World Series action. Monday night's tacos, Tuesday shrimp, Wednesday wings, and steak dinner and prime rib on Thursday, just $11.99. You know it's legitimate. They have a Johnny U wall, a whole Johnny U wall at Patrick's in Essex. Get on down there and say hello. The Model Lyric also with shows coming up. I had so much fun at Steely Dan, but I'm really looking forward to Kansas later on in the month. Straight No Chaser before Thanksgiving, as well as the Beach Boys Christmas show on December the 2nd. Joe Bonamassa and John Mellencamp coming up in 2019. And if you got kids, a Sesame Street Live coming up in 3 weeks, November 16th and 17th, as well as a Charlie Brown Christmas on December 9th. Something for the whole family. It is the Model Lyric. There is always magic at the Model Lyric. Sporticulture, got to get Court to send me some flowers here this week so it smells nice in here. It stimulates my cat to want to eat them. Love the flowers. You can ship them at sporticulture.com. A lovely array of colorful, and they smell nice too. And they're one click. One click, you ship your flowers. It's Sporticulture, officially licensed flowers, grown right here in the Mother Earth and the soil of Maryland and shipped everywhere. Luke Jones, we are shipping our word out on the internet. We're up in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. You can listen to what you want, where you want, how you want, and you download the TuneIn Radio app and you can listen live as well. Luke, last thing on the Ravens game, because I do want to get to Cincinnati losing and where the Ravens are and the Cosmos, and a weekend where probably the Ravens losing was one of the bigger upsets of the weekend. It's certainly an upset when Justin Tucker misses a field goal. You sort of moved yourself into the press room to take a picture of Morgan Cox and Sam Cook coming in. I didn't know if they were going to take the podium or not. I was wondering what their role was. And then I'm thinking to myself, and look, you and I were in there when Billy Cundiff missed the kick, right? So in New England, the moral support, I don't know that Justin Tucker's ever needed moral support. He's never missed a kick. So it was an interesting thing, but also the Wolf Pack and the quirkiness of those fellows and how long they've been together and generally how well-liked they are. Everyone likes Morgan Cox and Sam Cook. They're part of the furniture in Owings Mills.
Yeah, and it was good to see that. I mean, it's not going to make any Ravens fan feel better on the Monday after a loss or the Tuesday after a loss, but I think it was heartening for what that's worth. And look, Justin Tucker needs to get back on the horse and make kicks, and I think he will. And in the same way that the defense needs to bounce back from a disappointing finish to that one, and the offense needs to be a little more consistent. But it was good to see the response that you saw. I mean, Justin Tucker has been so great for so long now, and I think he will continue to be. But until he gets that opportunity Sunday in Carolina to make a big kick, or maybe the game-tying kick, that opportunity doesn't come on Sunday. Maybe he has to wait a couple weeks until he's in that position again. That's when an individual does need some support, and I thought it was a solid move by Sam Cook and Morgan Cox to come into the interview room and just be there. And just, not that Tucker was crying or anything like that. I mean, this wasn't the Super Bowl. Unlike Billy Cundiff, this wasn't the AFC Championship. The Ravens have many opportunities to recover from this. But I thought it really spoke to their rapport and the overall support that the likes of Joe Flacco and Terrell Suggs and other individuals in the Ravens locker room offered to Tucker, because they know this guy's won them quite a few games over the last 5 to 6 years. Some games that, quite frankly, the Ravens wouldn't have won if they had just an average kicker or just an above-average kicker. They've had the best, and he's been the difference in some games, and that's a testament to him, but I think that's also a reflection of your teammates and coaches and the fan base needing to have a long memory. And look, it's fine to be frustrated. Yeah, I think Sunday was a very frustrating, weird kind of loss for the Ravens because of how well they played for large portions of that game against a really, really good team.
It felt like a confident afternoon. There was never a point in the day where you really felt like they were going to lose.
It felt a lot like a playoff game. I mean, Eric Weddle even pointed it out. I mean, look at the number of possessions. You tend to see fewer possessions in a playoff game than your run-of-the-mill regular season game, especially in this day and age with scoring being what it is. But, it had that kind of atmosphere, so it kind of had that shock value feel at the end when Tucker misses. But, between Sam Cook and Morgan Cox, and then everyone else in the locker room lending their support, I think that was good to see. And I think overall, as much as the Ravens were disappointed, you didn't get a sense in the locker room that this was a defeat that was going to crush them. I think they kept proper perspective. But, as I said before, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it again until we get closer to Sunday, the real litmus test of what this loss means for the Ravens is going to be what happens the next couple weeks. They rebound and they beat the Panthers and then come home and take care of business against Pittsburgh in your home stadium. You go into the bye at 6-3. You're still feeling darn good about this football team. But if they follow this up and stub their toe on the road, and then you don't know what's going to happen in Ravens Steelers, we always talk about how unpredictable it is, both sides of the coin, then you potentially could be behind the 8 ball going into the bye, and that's just territory you don't want to be in. So good to see the Ravens handle the postgame the way they did, and not exactly a shock. One thing we've said over and over about John Harbaugh and this post-Super Bowl 47 era that, let's face it, hasn't been as good as anyone would have liked in terms of playoff appearances and playing January football, but this team has been together, and you haven't seen a fractured locker room. You haven't seen unnamed sources making disparaging comments about coaches or other players or anything like that. And just take a look at what's happened in Pittsburgh, even with all the Steelers' success. And
chaos.
Sure, you trade the record with them, and they've been to the playoffs more and they've won divisions. But in terms of just keeping his locker room together, John Harbaugh has done a superb job in that way. You'd just like to see it translate to a few more wins, and hey, the Ravens are still capable of doing that, but they need to recover quickly and move on from this one in a rapid fashion.
I want to give a shout-out to our friends at Amici's of Little Italy, the Pane Rotondo, the meatballs, the ziti la rosa, the calamari, and the marinara. The best marinara on earth is in High Street in Little Italy. Sometimes I take it home and sop it all up. Come see a movie on Friday night in the summer. Take it to Amici's all winter long. And make sure you get the meatballs down there. Get the marinara. The sports bar is beautiful. The World Series is on. Come back to Little Italy. We'd love to see you downtown at Amici's, my favorite place down there. Also, if you're out on the east side, Pizza John's still there. My mom's favorite pizza, my favorite pizza, my wife's favorite pizza. We get over there at least every 2 weeks. Make sure we bring back a big old 16-inch here with some green pepper, mushroom, and sausage and pepperoni. Luke loves the meat sauce. I like it traditional, but Pizza John's is there. They've been doing it for 50 years there, back River Neck Road in Essex. Don't go to sleep on a ravioli either. It's pretty good, as well as the cheesesteak subs. We're going to get down to Pizza John's this week, and I'll be making you hungry out on social media. You'll see me at Pizza John's, probably working a cheesesteak before the week's over here. Luke, I got to get ready for the World Series here, and I watched a lot of the first round. I did not watch as much of the League Championship Series over the weekend as maybe I had the previous week. I'm interested in this World Series for a lot of reasons. The Oriole Machado thing that's come back to life, and I know you and I did a segment about his histrionics last week. It's gotten even worse. Boy, he's really worn the black hat, right? He's going to get booed everywhere he goes, but wherever he signs, right? He's going to be the villain of baseball, the modern-day Reggie Jackson, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, certainly he's going to be booed at Fenway Park because of what happened with Pedroia last season. There's no question about that, and that's going to be interesting. I mean, it's funny. I mean, the Dodgers and the Red Sox have such traditions that go back well over a century ago, and they haven't really crossed paths all that much in the same way that you can look at some other American League, National League matchups in the World Series, and some teams have some history there. But, yeah, I mean, Manny's going to be under the microscope and has been in this postseason, and I'll continue to say what I said to you in our previous segment talking about this. I still don't think it's going to matter all that much in terms of what his value is going to be. I still think someone's going to pay lucrative money for a 26-year-old as supremely talented as he is. But it's something that you look at just as a baseball fan, and it frustrates you because you see the talent. You see this guy that is such a great player and could be even better in terms of doing those little things and, not sticking your leg out when you're crossing first base. And, I mean, it's just dumb stuff. I mean, Alan McCallum said it best, and I'm repeating myself on this one, but I think it's worth repeating that you watch Manny and there's so much greatness, but there's a lot of underlying knucklehead there too, and that's what frustrates you.
And there's no amount of money that's going to make that go away. And I don't know that maturity, if Buck Showalter and Adam Jones and the people he had been around didn't have a foot up his ass, and at this point I don't think there's any taming that horse, so to speak. And especially once he's got a $280 million contract and the manager in the dugout's making $850,000.
Yeah. But on the flip side, I'd say, but how much does it really hurt you? I mean, the Dodgers are in the World Series, and he was a big reason why they got to the World Series.
Well, there's a way you want to conduct your business. I mean,
sure.
I don't
believe me. I hear you. But again, putting that in terms of value of whether you want that guy on your ball club or not, I said it before and I'll say it again. Joey Rickard's a gamer, and he's not going to do anything like that. But guess what? He's not going to help you win ball games either. So it's one of those. I don't even want to say risk reward because he hasn't had off-field issues. He just he doesn't run out ground balls all the time, and he'll do something once in a while where. I don't think he's a dirty player, but he does something where it's like, dude, that looked dirty. And, I mean, I don't think he's trying to be malicious, but I think he kind of loses his head and has some ego where he does something dumb and does something that could potentially hurt someone. And, it's just, I don't know how long this will linger. I mean, certainly being on a postseason stage, he's going to hear some boos. But, at the same time, if he's playing a road series on a June weekend in Kansas City next year, are Royals fans going to be remembering so harshly what happened in the postseason?
They'll be coming out to cheer the Phillies or the Yankees or whomever he's playing for, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
By the way, where do you see him going now that we haven't talked about that in 3 months? I mean, it was all about where the Orioles were going to deal him, not where he was really going to sign. He's going to be a Philly, right? I mean, I that's sort of the prevailing wisdom is that guy wants to spend money. He's gone crazy. That the villain thing would play there. He's a great – we know this. He can drop a bunt, right? I mean, as much as we've bitched over the modern era the last 25 years about guys that can't bunt, man, he can drop a bunt.
He can, but let's not forget the Yankees in this equation. I mean, they've kind of been considered the favorites all along. A lot of people figured with they have Gregorius and they have Miguel Andujar that, okay, maybe not. Well, Didi Gregorius just underwent Tommy John surgery, so does that change that equation? Didi would be back at some point. I don't know. I mean, I think those are the two teams you point to as the logical fits. I mean, even the Dodgers will have Seager coming back next year. I mean, put it this way, he's going to get an extraordinary amount of money from a contender. and there's going to be at least a couple teams vying very strongly for his services. And when you have competition in the open market, guess what? All that talk about slides and not running out ground balls, that you're going to see that you're going to see that fall to the background very, very rapidly. I don't think it's going to be an issue for most teams that are going to be in serious play for Machado. I'll stick with the Yankees just because I think that's kind of been my expectation for a long time. But you're absolutely right on the Phillies. I mean, they have money to spend. They are desperate to improve their defense. That was one of the big factors that led to their September demise. They were so bad. They were worse defensively than the Orioles were, if you look at some of the metrics at least. But, it's going to be fascinating. And, hey, as much as Manny Machado has put himself under the microscope, I'll also point out that, go back to that Boston incident last year. Do you remember him hitting home runs at Fenway Park after that happened? I mean, this is the kind of guy that he seems to be comfortable being under scrutiny and being under some criticism, so I would not be surprised.
He likes the Ric Flair role.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see him have a big series, even though the Red Sox are clearly going to be the favorite, as they should be after winning 108 games. And, boy, you have to give Boston a lot of credit the way that they were able to dispose of the defending world champs in the fashion that they did. And I'm looking forward to a good series. I mean, the Dodgers have the recent pedigree of being there a year ago, and some certain things they do remind you of a little more American League style. And I mean, the Red Sox, all the hand wringing about their bullpen. They even if Kimbrel's had some issues, they've had other guys really step up, and it hasn't been their demise as some people thought it could be. And I mean, they've hit the baseball. They haven't struck out a whole lot, whereas the Dodgers have struck out plenty. But these two teams, it's going to be fun. And you have, if you're a baseball fan, not specifically an Orioles fan, because we don't like the Red Sox in these parts, but you have two teams with a lot of tradition, big payrolls, no doubt, and that'll be mentioned quite a bit over the course of this series. But I'm looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing Clayton Kershaw, hopefully pitching at Fenway Park, and you have that element, and Chris Sale pitching in a World Series. He's going to get the ball game one. There's plenty of compelling storylines to this one as we look to see who's going to be raising the trophy at the end of the World Series.
Well, at least the Orioles are still in on this Victor Mesa thing, right?
I'll say this much. In a vacuum, losing out on Victor Mesa as a prospect, it's disappointing, but this is not Mike Trout. This is not Bryce Harper. Talking to members of the organization and even talking to an individual or two outside of the organization that really follows prospects and talent.
Well, all of these guys, their job's to market themselves, literally the same way, Lee Steinberg's trying to market Pat Mahomes to be the number one pick instead, right?
Sure,
It's typical of
no
this.
No one seems to think that Victor Mesa is going to be Mickey Mantle or anything crazy like that. But I'll go back to what I said to you at the time of the Kevin Gausman trade. I didn't like it. It was too much focused on dumping salary when instead you had a commodity that you could trade. And I continue to go back to what the Rays got for Chris Sale, who, all right, better pedigree, but look at their numbers over the last 3 seasons. Kevin Gausman, way more similar to Chris Sale than you think over the last 3 seasons. And the Rays got 3 top 100, or at least guys that were, each of those 3 was at least on the cusp of being top 100 prospects. The Orioles, they got some okay minor league pieces, 1 or 2 guys that I think are, could be interesting, but certainly no one that was a top 100 kind of prospect. And they ended up getting a bunch of international signing bonus slot money that at this point kind of feels like expired coupons, right? I mean, so they ended up using Kevin Gausman to dump a bunch of salary, which, hey, they had already dumped a bunch of salary. I still would have rather seen the Orioles, and I said this at the time, and I said the only thing that was going to save them was getting Victor Mesa. Well, They're not getting him. They could still get the pitcher, Gaston, who has a really good arm, and some people, some talent evaluators actually think he has a little bit more of a ceiling, higher ceiling than Mesa, even if Victor has the higher floor, certainly. But I just look back at this Gausman deal and say, I really would have liked to see the Orioles hold on to him. If that was truly the best offer you could get at the deadline, hold on to him, and the new GM, whoever it's going to be, that would have been a really nice piece to trade this offseason, with Gausman still having 2 years of club control, and I think he would have been a really attractive piece that maybe you don't get an absolutely insane haul for, but I think you could have done a lot better than Dan Duquette did. Dan Duquette and the Orioles, whoever was making the call, from what I understand, that one was a Duquette trade. That was underwhelming at the time, and it looks even worse now if with Victor Mesa and his brother going to the Marlins, and we'll see. I mean, there's still other players.
Well, the Oriole fans are holding on to some sort of miracle that is above and beyond the number one pick, which feels a little bit predetermined at this point. They're still going to play 60 or 70 baseball games before they draft next year, and worrying about all that. But the offseason and free agency and who's going to be the person making these decisions, all of this kind of comes to a head. This World Series could be over in 4 or 5 games, right? Business as usual could pick up for baseball next week. I had Maury Brown on this week. He's talking about winter meetings in Las Vegas. We're 5 weeks out on that. We don't even have a guy running the team.
Yeah, and that's where you look at this. I mean, the manager part of this, I'm far less interested in. As I've said to you, the Orioles are hiring someone that's going to be more Dave Tremblay than Buck Showalter, if we're just calling a spade. Whoever they hire as their manager, very, very, very likely is not going to be the manager whenever this team contends again. You hope it's not much more than 3 or 4 years, but hey, you see the state of the organization the same way I do. But they need to get that head of baseball ops in place, to your point. Not that they're going to be making a ton of free agent signings or anything like that, or even at this point that they have a ton of really attractive trade pieces. I mean, okay, you could move Michael Gibbons, you could move Jonathan VR. I would say Dylan Bundy. I'm not sure what his value is at this point coming off the year that Dylan Bundy had. I think that's more of you'd be selling low on him, and I don't think that'd be smart at this point. So it's not as though there's a ton of immediate work that needs to be done in the next month, as much as just knowing the big picture, the incredible undertaking there is in rebuilding this roster, restructuring this organization, beefing up analytics, creating a presence in the international market. As we witnessed with the Victor Mesa saga, it's not just about having money. It's about having scouts there. It's about cultivating relationships and networking and having a presence in the Caribbean and elsewhere if you truly want to have a footprint in the international market. It's not just spending the money. It's having those types of elements, having that infrastructure in place. And those are things that are going to take a lot of time, and those are things that are not going to reap the benefits and bear fruit in the next month. Basically, whoever's coming in here is going to be planting seeds, and when you plant seeds, you don't see anything for a while, right? Eventually, you hope to see those buds and those plants start to peek out of the ground, but the Orioles are still very much in they're not even planting the seeds yet. They're still figuring out where they're buying the seeds from, meaning who's going to be running it, and that is a decision that they need to make here very, very shortly, and then everything else slowly but surely starts to fall into place, and you really attack this with, to borrow an expression from the Harbaugh family, attack it with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind, because it is a heck of a job whoever's going to be walking in here trying to rebuild this roster and revamp this organization, getting it back in a direction they want to be going.
In the meanwhile, we'll watch the Red Sox and the Dodgers and Manny Machado and Steve Pearce and Pick a side. I don't know if there's any good or bad. It's red or blue like everything else in our country at this point. You can find Luke out in Owings Mills all week long as we get ready for the Carolina Panthers. I'll be in Charlotte this weekend doing the social media thing. We will be doing some live Ravens shows beginning next week. All of them brought to you by our friends at Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need the right lender. You know our friends Carl Delmont and our friends at Freedmont Mortgage. Go up to the website, learn more. They have a whole educational platform up there, knowing that it's the biggest investment you're going to make in your life, and you got to trust somebody with it for 30 years. Make sure it's Freedmont Mortgage and our friend Carl Delmont. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry and doing some stuff up at Adams Jeep in Aberdeen in the coming weeks. I got some storylines ahead. You'll learn more out on our Facebook and our Twitter and our LinkedIn and our Snapchat. We'll be getting all that information out there, as well as on AM 1570. Don't forget, the morning newspaper ships directly to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. And, of course, the Maryland Jockey Club and Laurel. We had a great day at the Maryland Million on Saturday down there. Get on down, see the beautiful Vegas-ized sports bar, and bet on the ponies. I cashed a ticket in the 11th race. I bet the winner. Had the 7 for $5. Paid $23. It was nice. Good day at the track for us on Saturday down at Laurel. Open for business all winter long, and the Maryland Million was awesome as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Tassel, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.